I'm not going to talk to you about Fight Club. More to the point, I'm not going to talk to you about the Fight Club that you've seen. I'm going to talk to you about the Fight Club that I've seen. Fight Club was a movie that David Fincher made between The Game and Panic Room. It came out in October of 1999. But the version I have seen has been time-stamped February of 1999. It came into my possession about 3 weeks after the movie arrived in theaters on a unmarked VHS tape. This version has temporary music like the Foo Fighters and a piece from this 2001 soundtrack. It has unfinished CGI. It has extended scenes, rearranged scenes, alternate takes, and is generally longer and fuller than the version that you can get on DVD at any Big Lots or Walmart in the country. Now, I don't suppose it's particularly fair of me to review this unauthorized and probably illegal version of a movie by a director I admire and a studio that would probably slit my throat if I tried to distribute it to anybody else. However, I feel that given the nature of the film and its themes and its tone and its attitude, it is entirely appropriate for me to talk about this version of the movie rather than the version that everyone else wants you to see. Fight Club is about a guy who's about 30 and works in an office in a car company, and he is deeply unhappy with his life. He feels very unsatisfied. He has no particular purpose that he sees fit. It's funny how this movie I just watched this again basically last night, and it's like a period piece now. I mean, it's not just the fact that the televisions look different and that people order out of mail order catalogs on the phone. But one of the lines that the Brad Pitt character Tyler Durden has is, "We have no great war and no great depression." Well, that's changed since the movie came out, I think. So the main character, who has no name that we ever hear, is played by Edward Norton, and once he meets the Brad Pitt character, they put together this little club where guys beat each other up just to sort of vent frustration about their white-collar or blue-collar existence. And eventually this escalates to Project Mayhem, in which they start to intentionally trigger the airbags on cars and blow up computer shops and erase videotapes in Blockbuster, which almost doesn't exist anymore as well, as a way of shaking people out of their apathy, I suppose. I like this movie a great deal. And I like the irregular or unfinished version even more, because there's even more stuff in there to enjoy. For example, one scene which I really wish they would have kept in the finished version of the movie, when the cops get a hold of Edward Norton, and they are actually members of Project Mayhem secretly, they take the rubber band and they put it around his privates, and they get out the knife and prepare to, cut his stuff off. And in the extended version of this scene, one of the cops says, "Wait, we ought to time ourselves just to see how fast we can do it." And they all look at the clock on the wall and wait till the second hand gets on 12. At which point Edward Norton shrieks and then fights back and escapes. There's one thing that kind of bothered me, and that is the fact that the building that they are in the climax, when they've set the charges, is supposed to blow up as well. The van in the basement of the building, Edward Norton gets in and he pulls the right wire and stops the bomb, but then Brad Pitt reconnects it. Now, it's hardly in the finished version. It's very clearly there in the temporary or preliminary version that I've seen. But the final version does have one very brief shot in between the time that Brad Pitt throws Edward Norton out of the van and then climbs out himself. You see him doing something with the device. And what else could it be except reconnecting the wire and restarting the thing? So why that building doesn't blow up via, as per the opening shot, which has them high up and then it rockets down to the basement. You see the van there with a bullet hole in it and the bomb set to go. That'll bother me a little bit. But I suppose they cut out that little bit where Brad Pitt reconnects the bomb just because they realize they've made a mistake. I don't know. Now, a little off topic here. Ever since, Stanley Kubrick had a film come out in 1999, his last film, Eyes Wide Shut, and he died a few months before that. Now, ever since he passed away, and even before then, a lot of people have been speculating upon who's the next Stanley Kubrick? Who's the next Stanley Kubrick, And the answer is nobody. Nobody's ever going to be the next Stanley Kubrick. I mean, the guy had a style on his own and also control on his own. There was only one director in all the history of cinema who could live in England and then call up the head of Warner Brothers and say, I've got a new project I'd like to work on. I want to tell you about it. And the head of Warner Brothers goes, yes, sir, Mr. Kubrick, and gets on a plane and flies all the way to England so that Kubrick can tell him about it in person. Now, as far as sensibilities go, and just general tone, I think that there are a lot of similarities between Kubrick and David Fincher, but you can't really draw a direct line between most of their movies, except for Fight Club. I believe that Fight Club is Fincher's A Clockwork Orange, and that is because it is the most notorious of his films and controversial, and it is basically the story of a guy who is telling the story via first-person narration and his own sort of twisted view on the world around him. There are a lot of dissimilarities, of course, but given that Fincher has made movies that have been nominated for Oscars and movies that have been box office hits, Fight Club really isn't one of his big hits, at least theatrically, but it's got the biggest cult, the biggest following, and the same can be said of A Clockwork Orange for Stanley Kubrick. Now, that may not be a good thing depending on how you like the movies or not, but I'm a big fan of this film, and there's one other thing that I wish they'd kept in the final version. There's a scene where all the members of Project Mayhem are running around basically destroying stuff, and in one scene they're basically walking along the roof of an apartment building using baseball bats to smash satellite dishes. And in the final version, it's a very distant shot, so you can't really see what they're doing. But in the version I've seen, there's a big fat close-up of a satellite dish, and it gets sliced in half. And I think they toned that down just because it's the home entertainment market or whatever. I don't know, some stupid reason for doing that. In some ways, the finished version seems slightly neutered. It's still pretty edgy, but still, I kind of wish that they had kept more of the stuff from the February version in. But what can I do except enjoy my own version of the movie and not watch the other version? Of course, the picture is very fuzzy. It's not a clean dub. There's a lot of glitches in it, and you have to crank the sound way up in order to hear what anyone's saying. But still, I believe that watching this version of the movie is very much in keeping with the spirit of Tyler Durden and his message of anarchy and letting go of that which you cannot control. And that is, I don't know if there's a lesson in the movie per se, but it's enjoyable, that's for sure. And definitely ranks near the top of the Fincher movies the films that Fincher has made. That is my take on Fight Club. Please go over to vrosebhappy's channel. Her link is in the description below. Check out her take on the movie. I believe she had a friend of hers doing it with her, so that should be a lot of fun. And we're going to wrap up our Fincher series. This is the last of the 6 movies we're doing on Fincher, and we'll be starting soon, of course, on the one and only Mr. Martin Scorsese. Oh, one other thing. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Take it easy.